I was asked to share some thoughts and memories about Art Littleworth. And so I thought I would approach it from three perspectives. One, how I heard of him and came to know him. Two, from my interactions with him, just some comments about him as a human being, how he comported himself. And then three, and most important to me, what he stood for. So the first part, how I came to know him. I actually heard about Art Littleworth when I was in elementary school, over at Mountain View Elementary School here in Riverside. My father, who was for a short time president of the local NAACP, used to speak of him occasionally, because Art was known as a man in his role as serving on the Riverside Unified School District School Board, who believed that truly all people were equal. But more importantly than that, not just believing it, he acted on that. I was in elementary school. I didn't hear much about him then, but I did hear his name. And of course, then I had to go on to high school and eventually college and finished law school in 1985. And I had the pleasure of getting an offer with the law firm of Best and Krieger. And my dad, again, reminded me that I should try to talk to Art Littleworth. As my dad used to say, he's a good man. And to say he's a good man sounds actually kind of an understatement, but you understand in my dad's lexicon of human beings, there are only three types of people. There could be a good man or good woman. There could be an okay fellow. Now that is clearly just dripping with mediocrity. And then the third kind was you weren't worth the powder to blow to hell, which seems rather violent, but if you consider it, that's the only person who's assured their survival, because they're so worthless that no one's ever going to mess with them. But in my father's view, Art Littleworth was a good man. And so when I started Best and Krieger, I did rotations in the law, and I had the opportunity to work with Art a few times. And I will say, I learned a tremendous amount about being a lawyer from him. He was not a hard taskmaster, but he did not receive substandard or even mediocre work well. And that actually was a real benefit to me. He was a person who loved to have fun. Every year we would have a Halloween costume party. And in fact, the various staff and attorneys would dress up in some outrageous things. And Art would make it a point to try to win that Halloween event every single year, dressing from everything from Blue Man Group to the cone heads to the most amazing things. So he was a person who never took himself too seriously. And then in terms of what he stood for, this is something I've thought a lot about, and everybody knows, I think, that in his role of being the president of the Riverside Unified School District Board of Trustees in the 1960s, he was one of the people who headed up the voluntary desegregation of Riverside schools as the first major school district in the United States to do so. And the way that I think about this, because all of us have challenges in life, we take on responsibilities. It can be parent, lawyer, business person. But there are some of us who are willing to do something more. And Art was one of those people. The thing that gets me is that Art easily could have explained to his fellow trustees and the superintendent of schools that he had a very busy law practice, and I would encourage everyone to read his book, No Easy Way. He was a father. He was a husband. He was active in the community, and it would have been easy for him when confronted literally with life and death decisions. He notes in his book that he was concerned about, in fact, he had to send his family away and seek refuge in the homes of some of his law partners because the tone in this community was so tight. He was really concerned that a Molotov cocktail might be thrown into his home and injure or kill himself and his family. So here's the sort of man who would send his family away with young children, and he would stay in town. That kind of courage, of commitment to an idea, commitment to a constitution, to human decency, those are things we all should aspire to. And I think that's about all I want to say. Thank you.